Okay, so today we're going to talk about writing a literary claim, a literary argument, or literary thesis. These are things that I know that you cognitively know, but to refresh and to think about, like, how do I go about doing it? You know the criteria for an argument, but we have to kind of think through how to make it happen. If you've had Mr. Sprouse for advanced comp, you already know this particular question, which is his thesis driving question. It's an important one and it can really, really help you. And so if you start with a question about a piece of literature, what is the author trying to say about some big idea by including whatever it is that you notice is seems important, but is small and concrete. The question is not your thesis. The answer to the question is a literary claim, and it can never be answered simply, and that's why it's a beautiful question to get you to a complex claim. So that's one way to do it. Another way that you have been taught to do it is a why, thinking about what specifically the author has done it, and then why, connecting it to their purpose. And the why then becomes something outside in the real world. Now, if all you do is what they do and why you think they do it, it could end up looking like an observation. So you have to make sure that it's an argument. So here, thinking about the difference between an argument and a claim and an observation, here are some criteria for an observation. It notices something that's either true or false. You might say, oh, but it's arguable. Somebody could say that it's not. Yes and no, true and false is not arguable. That's just contradiction. Either it is or it's not. You're right or you're wrong. And that's not what we want. We don't want something that's obvious to anybody who's going to read the work. We don't want something that is just going to require a list of evidence, a list of examples, not evidence, but a list of examples. If your thesis statement indicates that you're just going to list examples, then you probably have an observation, not an argument. Also, if it's likely valid in a number of situations, that this is what irony does. Well, of course that's what irony does. It's what irony always does. Then it can't be a claim for the specific thing that you're doing. Instead, you're going to have to make it important in some way. So then we think about arguments and claims. An argument or a claim answers so what or who cares about the observation that you've made. It makes it important in the world, and that is one of the key criteria for a good thesis statement or a good claim, is that it's important. So you might try asking yourself at every time you revise a claim, saying, so what, who cares, or seeing if somebody could validly say that about your claim and seeing if you can revise based on that. A good claim also, literary claim also, considers why the choice was made in terms of overall purpose. Not like it fits in this particular sentence, but the effect that it has on the audience. Does it feel more flowing? Does it connect to an idea? Form and function is what we're doing there. It also considers the specifics of that make this particular situation unique, not in general, what does it do? There would be counter-arguments that exist, not just nuh-uh, because that's contradiction, not argument. Other explanations might also be valid. It does, a good claim requires analysis, not just a list of information, but analysis to make concrete, complex connections that would not be obvious to just anybody. So we don't want that observation. We do want that argument or claim. So if you're thinking about the what, if we're going from the why explanation, or that seemingly unimportant detail, again, we're reviewing. The what is a choice. Everything that an author does, because authors are readers by nature and they revise and think things through and try to make it as good as they can, that means that everything that they have done is a conscious choice. They may not have said, oh, I want red to represent X or Y, but they have said red works here, and they have chosen that particular detail. So we have to think about what the purpose is that it contributes to. Your identification of the what, or this seemingly unimportant detail, has to be specific and concrete. It can't just be a general idea. So is this a valid what or detail for a claim? Is that the author uses irony and then ... finishes it in order to do X or Y? The answer is no. It is not. Why is it not a valid detail or what? It's because it's not specific enough. It needs to be concrete and specific, not irony, but what's ironic? This will be the same for any general literary advice. If they use repetition, metafiction, first-person narration, symbolism, imagery, all of that stuff, in order to solve, you have to identify exactly what the author has chosen to do. What are they repeating? How are they using first-person narration, etc.? How about this one? The author starts many sentences with "I remember." This one works. It is a valid one because it's concrete and specific. Here's another example. The author uses light, an intangible, to symbolize Gatsby's dream. We haven't gotten to the importance, but is that a reasonable detail? Yes, it is. It's specific enough. Then we get to the why, or the big idea. So the big idea in the thesis driving question, or the why in the what why paragraph. The why represents the author's purpose. What does the author want the reader to think, feel, or do after they read if they have understood the piece? The big idea is very, very similar. It's something in the real world. What big ideas are out there that the author, as all authors and writers and artists do, what are they examining? Are they thinking about love, memory, guilt, human-pet relationships, whatever it is? Okay, so you've got to think about what that big idea is. This purpose and idea get to the effect on the reader. So if you ask yourself, what did I think, feel, or do as a result? What ideas did it make me consider? Did it make me reconsider relationships that I have, or the way that I see something in the world, or did I notice something new? What is that idea that occurred to me as I was reading? Then consider that that's likely on purpose. That is what you're going to connect to what the author has done. So you might ask yourself, how did the author make me do that? So you might start with the effect on the reader and then go back to the specific detail. It's a perfectly valid way to do it. You might also consider, why does it matter that this happened, that they did this thing that they did? Why is that important in the world? And that extends it and gets to importance. So those are all the kind of considerations that you need to go through in order to get a claim. Once you've drafted, you also have to think, is it arguable? Is it narrow? Is it important? And you have resources that can help you kind of test your thesis and go back to that multiple times. So here's an example. In The Great Gatsby, Daisy's hair color is alternatively described as blonde and brunette. Is that okay? No, it's an observation. It just is. It's either true or it's false. I could list the instances in which she is a blonde, and I could list the instances in which she is a brunette, and that would be the end of that. Have to get to why does it matter? And that gets to this professionally written literary analysis, where the discrepancy of those descriptions of her hair color reflects a fundamental duality in Daisy herself, her simultaneous embodiment of traits associated with the fair and dark women of romantic literature. So it gets to the importance. And somebody might say, oh, well, who knows? F. Scott Fitzgerald, was confused. He was just looking for what it happened in this moment. But this is an alternate explanation. There are different ways that somebody could look at this particular idea. So that one works. So here is another example. Mo Willems in We're in a Book uses metafiction to help young readers understand how books work. That's a problem because it's just patently true. That is what that particular thing does. Yes, he's using metafiction, but how does the metafiction do that? What about the metafiction does that? Why is it important? How is this his purpose? And why would that purpose be important? So the metafiction is non-specific. We're wondering, who cares? So what? Why does this matter? Can I highlight those ideas and importance more? So let's try another one. This is using the general argument guidelines, the what, why. In We're in a Book, Mo Willems needs to use characters who are aware of themselves in relation to the book in order to shift literary perceptions of early readers who, like Gerald, are developing their own roles and relationships in regards to book, acknowledging and alleviating some of their anxieties. So yes, This gets to quite a few of those things. It talks about the specifics. They're aware of themselves in relation to the book. We want to shift literary perceptions of early readers. And the importance is that they're developing their own roles and relationships with books, and that helps their anxiety. So it has the elements. It certainly could use some revision. Here's another one. This one takes the thesis driving question. So the question with the blanks filled in is, what is Mo Willems saying about a reader's role in books by including characters who like to be read? So the answer, always harder to get to the answer than to write the question. Why? What is he saying? By including self-aware characters who like to be read, Mo Willems shows the importance of the reader in relation to books, explicitly showing early readers that they matter. That one actually has a lot more of the elements there. It's a lot more concrete than the other one. So here, I'd like you to note that the thesis driving question, when I was doing this, the thesis driving question was actually easier for me to come up with a solid, specific thesis that got to the heart of the matter. I did have to revise the question quite a few times, and then I had to think through my own response to that and think about why it matters. I also did revise that take 3, the comma section at the very, very end. I added that in addition to just answering the question so that it added that importance. So it was a comma showing that blah, blah, blah type thing that you can do. Please remember that writing literary analysis is a hard skill. You should not be able to just look at a work and write a thesis in no time at all. It takes a lot of practice, deliberate practice, thinking through it hard. It takes a lot of revision, even for people who've been doing this for a long, long time. It takes work and thought, but that practice helps all of your critical thinking muscles and makes you think about the whole world in a different way, and that makes it worthwhile. So go through these steps.